sometimes it takes a long time to finally sound like yourself. And maybe, dude, you find yourself getting knocked out, man. Maybe you find yourself on the ropes. Maybe you find yourself where you have zero confidence and you're like, I don't know if I can keep on. Maybe you're in the fight of your life and you have to understand, man, this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing, because sometimes it takes a long time to finally sound like yourself. If you get a chance to watch something this weekend on Netflix, aside from the Super Bowl, but if you get a chance to watch, I just finished the Aaron Hernandez documentary. And so I needed something else to watch. And so when I was looking for something else, Losers came up. And Losers is just what the title says. It's you know, so many episodes, so many things are focused on winning. And Losers is about those kind of people who have lost big time. They lost big time and ended up being basically losing in front of millions. And then how do they recover from a loss? And so the first one that I watched was on Michael Bentt, B-E-N-T-T. And Michael Bentt, I used to be a back in the days boxing fan. I mean, Evander Holyfield and all these heavyweight champs, Tommy Morrison, Tyson, you know, we remember all those. I used to watch boxing with my dad when pay-per-view wasn't so expensive. And I don't remember Michael Bentt. And so Michael Bentt was a 4 or 5 time Golden Glove winner and just an amazing amateur, basically untouchable, man. And so he's coming up through the ranks as an amateur. His dad's really hard on him. His dad's Jamaican, just super, super hard on him. So in order to get out from underneath his dad's wing, Michael Bentt decides to turn pro. And so he's got this amazing track record as an amateur. So he turns pro. And his first professional fight, Michael Bentt gets knocked out on national TV. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. And he is demoralized. The thing about boxing, man, I mean, when you lose in boxing, dude, you can't explain it away. You can't, it's not a team sport. You can't say, oh, my foot slipped. No, dude, you got knocked out. And so here he is, his confidence is shattered. I mean, just totally erased. And he comes back home to Queens and he is a wreck, man. I mean, here he was a champ in the making. And now his first professional fight, he gets knocked out. And so he's walking around, he's embarrassed. He even walks up to his car one time, and on the car it says, he's got a little note written on there. It says champ and question mark. And you got knocked out in your first professional fight. And so at this time, the illusions that Michael Bentt had of what his life was about to be, I'm sure he thought when he turned pro, I mean, he was gonna just keep handling up on all these fighters that he'd been doing when he was Golden Glove winner, multiple Golden Glove winner. And so he's walking around the neighborhood, demoralized, embarrassed, no confidence, and he spirals out of control. Starts drinking a lot, not training. But as fate goes, he ended up connecting with Evander Holyfield's camp. And his trainer, Evander Holyfield's trainer, said, look, we're looking for a sparring partner. And he said, you know, Holyfield's got a fight coming up, so why don't you come spar with Holyfield? And so he does. Michael Bentt and Holyfield spar. And at the end of the sparring session, the trainer walks up to Michael Bentt and says, I gotta be honest with you, I don't know which one was the champ. That lit a fire in Michael Bentt. And all of a sudden it reignited him that, you know what, maybe I can do this. And again, this twist of faith would have it. Michael Bentt ends up getting a tune-up fight with the Great White Hope. And the Great White Hope is Tommy Morrison, man. Tommy Morrison was supposed to be the next one, man. And the reigning heavyweight champion for a long time coming. He was I think his name was Machine Gun. I think that was his Tommy the Machine Gun Morrison, I think. So here's Tommy Morrison, tune-up fight. Michael Bentt, by happenstance, gets a fight with him. And come to find out, Michael Bentt knocks out Tommy Morrison and becomes the most unlikely heavyweight champion of the world. And so here he is, man. He's Michael Bentt. His first professional fight gets knocked out, and now here he finds himself, and then he thinks he can't do this. And next thing you know, he's the heavyweight champion of the world. Dude, he's back, right? He's riding high. He's on top of the world again. So he takes this brush-up fight, this tune-up fight with this unknown boxer, Herbie Hind. And Herbie Hind is big dude, man, but he takes him on, man. And this is just supposed to be a tune-up fight because Michael Bentt's life is now completely turned around. He's got this big-ass belt around. So here comes Herbie Hind. Herbie Hind knocks out Michael Bentt. And dude, when I say knocked out, he didn't knock him out backwards, okay? He knocked him out. It's one of those knockouts where you're out cold before you even hit the canvas. Michael Bentt ended up falling. He was out. He fell forward and bounced off the mat. The knockout was so bad that he ended up in a coma for, I think, like 9 days. And when Michael Bentt came out of the coma, the doctor said, "You can never box again." Bentt said that was the best thing that ever happened in his life, because it took that for him to finally find his home. And Michael Bentt's favorite phrase is by Miles Davis. Sometimes it takes a long time to finally sound like yourself. And because he was told he could never box again, he ended up, again, connecting with someone in Hollywood who actually needed some advising roles on boxing for movies that were coming up. And so he drives out there to Hollywood, to Los Angeles, I think. He starts training these well-known actors. He actually gets an acting role opposite of Will Smith. Will Smith is doing Ali. So not only is he training Ali, Will Smith, how to fight and how to look like a fighter, but he also becomes the young Joe Frazier. He plays Joe Frazier in the movie Ali. And now all of a sudden his career's taken off again. And he works with Clint Eastwood in $1 Million Baby. And he's also working with all kind of other actors, not only for upcoming boxing roles, but also just to keep in shape in general. And he said, him getting knocked out, none of this would have happened had he not gone through what he went through. See, he was Golden Glove winner multiple times, turned pro, got knocked out, ashamed in front of the neighborhood, a drunk, gets a sparring session, becomes heavyweight champion, takes on another fight, gets knocked out, put in a coma until he finally found his home. See, he's at peace now. And he said, he never really wanted to become a fighter, but he's affiliated with the fighting. He told his dad early on, he said, "Dad, I don't want to fight." And his dad beat the hell out of him for even saying that. He had to fight. But it took him taking this path for him to finally find his groove, for him to finally find and sound like himself. And the message today, man, is just that. Sometimes it takes a long time to finally sound like yourself. And maybe, dude, you find yourself getting knocked out, man. Maybe you find yourself on the ropes. Maybe you find yourself where you have zero confidence and you're like, what? I don't know if I can keep on. Maybe you're in the fight of your life and you have to understand, man, this is exactly what you're supposed to be doing, because sometimes it takes a long time to finally sound like yourself. And let's take my life, okay? I went from nobody wanting Buice on a team in grade school, the most unlikely to get a scholarship. I got a scholarship. Turned out to be like number 5 on the depth chart. Skinny kid. Before I was given a scholarship, I was told I was too small to play college ball. You can't play here. Got the scholarship. Ended up there. Ended up number 5 on the depth chart. Become almost an overnight starter because of happenstances that happened right there in front of me, even though they didn't want me to start. So became a starter, became an All-American, became named one of McNeese's on the All 75th anniversary team, one of the best linemen to ever come through. Okay. Then I don't go pro. Try out, don't go pro. I end up having to raise my son by myself, move into a house with no stove, get a job in sales. But then my income is getting garnished because I had to repo my car. I knew the repo man by name. Get my car repoed. Get into management. Move up in management. Have a few amazing kids. Have a custom built home. Bankrupt. Divorced. Demoted. Sales life. Sometimes it takes a long time to finally sound like yourself. And so you're going to have these peaks and valleys. You're going to have situations where people say you can't do this anymore. And you know what? They were 100% right. You can't do this anymore. But maybe your this is closed, and maybe you can be affiliated like Bentt. Maybe your affiliation is with something that's very close to that, but it's not quite that anymore. See, he could never be a boxer again, but he had credentials to train people. He was a heavyweight champ. Even if it was for one fight, he was a heavyweight champ. To even get to that stage is an amazing feat. But it took getting to that for him to find his affiliation, to find his niche, his role, his home in Hollywood, the place where he could actually make an impact. And so that's where you find yourself today. You find yourself in these fights. You find yourself in these valleys. You find yourself where people are actually giving you these sentences saying you can't do this anymore. But remember this, dude, it's a sentence, not a sentence. It's a sentence as far as an ongoing narrative, man. It's just the period ends, but now start a new sentence. Add another page to your life. It's not a sentence that you can never do this again. No. It's not a sentence that you're locked up for the rest of your life and there's nothing else you can do. No. I just got to add another line. Keep this in mind today, man. Keep this when you're frustrated. Keep this, man, where you feel like you're in these valley experiences, when you don't know what to do, when you don't know if this is all for naught, when you feel like that you've fallen so far, when you're embarrassed, when you seem to be the laughing stock, when it seems like everyone else has given up on you. Remember this. Sometimes it takes a long time to finally sound like yourself. Have an amazing day. Stay in the sales life.